Hey everyone, this is Tahoe here, and today I'm going to be showing y'all how to replace an alternator on your 2007 GMC Yukon Denali. Now, I will be commenting on the Russia-Ukraine situation soon. Probably will do a stream on that, since that seems to be, the thing that's first and foremost on everybody's minds. I have had some setbacks going on in life at the moment, such as this being one of them. So let's get that, taken care of first. So let's go to what supplies I've got here. I've got my step stool, because as you all know, I am a manlet, and definitely gonna need that to, to reach. I've got our scissors just for opening the plastic. This is a great little toolkit I got from, I think it's called Next Tuesday, but it's an Armor All toolkit for 20 bucks. Mainly just going to be utilizing that for the adjustable wrench today, but it's got a whole Allen set, a hex set, small ratchets, and like 20 different screwdriver heads. So nice little buy for 20 bucks. I've got my new 160 amp alternator. Had to find out if this was a Bosch or Delco setup. Called the manufacturer and gave them my VIN number, and found out which one I needed. So got my new alternator here. It is a Duralast. Because that was the most inexpensive one, but hey, we're talking about a 14-year-old truck here, so it's what it is. I'm also going to just replace the Serpentine belt while I'm in there, since it does have a few cracks in it. And then we've got, last but not least, trying to open this with one hand, is our belt tensioner tool. This just helps you get the Serpentine belt on and put it back on, get it off and put it back on. So the first thing I'm going to do, because this is an electrical repair, is disconnect the battery. I'm going to start with my positive end, and that's really all you need to do once it's an open circuit. You don't really run any risk, but just to be safe, I'll take off the negative end too. All right, so after the battery has been removed, and I had to take off a little hardware here to get to the negative on this one, because GMC is just extra like that, I guess. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the Serpentine belt. Now, I like to put everything in the order it came in. Got all my hardware for putting the battery back on here. Let me just put this nut back over here. That's just the little bracket I took off. Now, to take the Serpentine belt off, that's where this tool comes into play. Really, you could use any breaker bar. I didn't have one, so I got this one from AutoZone. It's 30 bucks to rent it. It's absolutely free. You just bring it back, and you can get your money back. Now this right here, this is the belt tensioner. So what you want to do is get this nice and, this is very hard. This is going to be very hard to show you using one hand, so I'm going to show you what to do. And then do it, and then probably come back, because this is going to be very hard to do single-handed. So this is a 16 millimeter. You just get it over the belt tensioner, and then you'll notice as I apply pressure, right, the belt becomes loose and I can take it off. Now what I can't stress enough is when I release it, the belt now tensions back. Getting it off is the easy part. Putting the new belt back on can be difficult. Now I 100% recommend you take a picture of the belt and how it was routed before you go ahead and take this off. Now normally there's a belt diagram on your hood there, but as you can see, being an older vehicle, it is completely worn off on this one. Now you can look this up online, or you can get it, like I always said, I always recommend a Haynes manual when it comes to looking up belt diagrams, but if you take a picture, you should be fine. Like I always start at the tensioner and then go and then follow it as it goes. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the belt off, and we're going to move on. Then we're going to move on to removing the alternator. All right, now that my Serpentine belt's off, I'm going to do a few things. The first is going to be to disconnect this wire harness up here. And you'll see there's actually another connection. Right back here, I had to step on my manlet stool for 1 second. There's another connection back here that's going to need to be disconnected. So like I said, kind of difficult to do with one hand while filming, so I'm going to take these off, and then we will take it from there. All right, so I took my wire harness out here. And the next, there's going to be a little boot you pull here, and there's just a nut holding this contact onto the back of the alternator. So I'm going to use my adjustable wrench to get that off. All right, so now that I've gotten that wire harness and that contact off, there is nothing attached to this alternator. All right, there's nothing going to and from it. Now to get it to release, there's going to be these two bolts right here. I think they're 14 millimeters, but I'm just going to use my adjustable wrench. I did bring my hammer just in case these are a pain to get off, because they can be. So again, hard to do it with one hand. I'm going to get these off and then we'll be right back. All right, now that I've gotten those bolts out, and believe you me, it can be a struggle. Now we got to get this thing out. Now what I like to do here, I already started the process here. Sometimes this can kind of be seized in there, so I use the back end of my hammer and just kind of, there we go, okay. That'll come up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It's really just those two bolts holding it in, so you can see it's starting to release now, but again, hard to do with one hand. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side, and then we will have our alternator fully out. All right, that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, buddy boys and girls, we've got our old alternator out, and now we are ready to put the new one in. So you can see here are the two next to each other. You know, this one's pretty shot. I want to actually talk about at the end some telltale signs that your alternator is going. You know, so you can take care of it before. You can see this one pretty rotted out on the inside. So, you know, obviously your alternator, it recharges your battery as you drive. You know, obviously your engine runs on gasoline, but the computer needs electricity, right? So you've got to have something constantly recharging the battery. It's basically like a turbine that creates a you know, infinite resource of electricity for your car. But if it goes bad, obviously your battery will die as you're driving, and then the computer won't be able to function and allocate fuel accordingly. So alternator, very important. So first thing I'm going to do is now place my new unit into place and start bolting it back in. Now, something to note here is that these bolts here need to be very, very tight. This goes on your engine block. You're going to get reverberation. I'd recommend, if you have it, use maybe some Loctite, which just makes the threads, you know, it's a liquid that basically makes the threads nice and tight. These also have a torque spec from the manufacturers. So if you have a torque wrench, I would definitely recommend torquing them to spec. You know, I am going to eyeball it myself. I think that will be okay, just because I don't have a torque wrench on me right now. I had one and I don't know where it went, so, but you know, my guess is that this is probably going to be like, you know, between 60 and 80 foot-pounds of torque, which, you know, I'm a 194 pounds as of today guy myself. So, you know, if I put some English on it, it should be okay and not come out. You don't want to make them too tight, otherwise they'll be a pain to get out like these were. But you know, bottom line, just make sure that these are nice and tight, but don't make them too tight to the point where they seize. All right, so now that I've gotten the bolts back in, I'm just going to give them a quick hand tight with my belt tensioner tool here, right? This is a good way to, you know, it's kind of, all right, this is not to be used in any type of official capacity. Okay, this is not a torque wrench, but again, I'm gonna just eyeball it here, just to make sure that these are nice and tight and they're not, you know, going anywhere as I drive. So I'm going to put those nice and hand tight. Pretty much once you're getting good resistance on them as you try to tighten them, that's when to stop. You can see, you know, the alternator, it's not going anywhere. And the next thing we're going to do is reconnect this connector back here. I'm just going to put that 10 millimeter nut there. Take my little connector here. We're going to put that back on here. And I'm going to, don't worry, this is why we disconnect the battery. We do not want to touch that and have power going from that. I'm just going to actually tighten that up real quick with my 10 millimeter socket. Let's do that with a, we want to make sure that that's nice and tight. Okay. Now once that's nice and tight, I'm gonna put my boot back over it. We don't want that being exposed to the elements. That is what we do not want. So let's get that back under the boot. There we go. And now, just reconnect my little wire harness here. See, it's got a little gasket to keep rain from getting in, and there we have it. Our new alternator is installed. Now comes the fun part of putting on the belt. So for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and get my new belt ready. This is gonna be very hard to show you with one hand, actually. I might want a helper for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the new belt on, and then we're almost done. All right, so now I've got my new Duralast. No? Oh well. Now I've got my new Duralast Serpentine belt that I'm gonna put on, and then there's some jokes. It's called Doesn't Last, but it was $27 versus 37. So, he might be okay. Sometimes when you do the Serpentine belt, it's good to have a helper too, because holding the tensioning tool can be a little difficult. I'm gonna put that in now. Okay, so update, no helper was needed. I was actually able to get this one myself. Luckily, thankfully, on this GMC Yukon and the Tahoe and all these GM vehicles from that era, you have ample room to fit your belt tensioning tool and also run the belt, as you do it. So didn't actually end up needing my helper. So I go ahead and release the tensioning tool, and there we go. We're ready to go. Now all I have to do is put the battery back on, and we should be good to go. Now, an important thing to note is you want to have your battery at a full charge when you start the car after replacing the alternator. So I'm going to go ahead and just charge the battery real quick, and then we should be good to go to start this bad boy. So a couple of reasons, couple of things that as I mentioned, what your alternator does, it charges your battery as you drive. Couple of telltale signs that your alternator is bad or is going. One is you hear a high-pitched whine as you drive. Again, it is a turbine, right? So if it's starting to wear out, you might hear a high-pitched whine, as you drive. Number two, your battery shows low and doesn't recharge as you each time you turn the car off, right? Like you just had to jump your car, and then a few days later you're getting the same thing, or within an hour or two you're getting the same thing, depending on the degree of which your alternator has given out. Eventually what'll happen, right, is you could replace the battery 20, 60, 100 times, and it'll just keep dying because it's not being charged as you drive. So these are all some telltale signs that your alternator isn't going anymore. But yeah, I'm gonna charge this battery, and then we'll start this up, and we're all done here. All right, so we are good. New alternator, it's working good. I don't know if y'all can see right here, but my battery is showing at 14 volts. We're running, so it's charging my new battery. I'm gonna go ahead and pop the hood to show y'all. Yes, we know the hood's open. We know. Yeah, not the easiest to do with one hand. But put my battery back on. I just gotta tighten everything up, but here we go. New alternator, new belt, and we're ready to drive this. So thanks for watching my video. If you need help replacing your alternator, easy way to do it. And on some of them, right, it was a little easier on this one because the alternator is located right up here at the front. But yeah, on some of these it can be a pain when the alternator is on the back of the engine block or on the bottom. But yeah, it's usually a pretty easy repair, and we're all good to go here. Bye, everyone.